Now we'll start with the chapter Anatomy of Flowering Plants. So here first we have to learn the basic concepts, that are the tissue and various types of tissues. Okay. So what do you understand by a tissue? A tissue is a group of cells having common origin and common function. This you have already studied and you know it very well. Based on the capability of the cell division, plant tissue are in two groups. Okay, first one is the meristematic tissue and the second one is the permanent tissue. Okay, so what do you understand by tissue? A tissue is a group of cells having common origin and function, and based on the capability of cell division, okay, you have to remember here that based on the capability of cell division, we are dividing the tissues into two types. Okay, so the first one is the meristematic tissue, which will be very active. That means the cell division will be ongoing in these tissues, and the second one is the permanent, which will be not that active and it would perform specific functions. Okay, so now the tissues, when we talk about the meristematic tissue, these tissues are the tissues where active cell division and growth occurs. So you have to remember that here the active cell division and growth will occur, and based on the position of the meristem present inside a plant, we call them as apical meristem, intercalary meristem and secondary or lateral meristem. Okay, so first we divided the tissues on the basis of the cell division. That were the two types. Okay, that was the meristematic tissue and the permanent tissue, and now we are talking about the meristematic tissue. So the meristematic tissue are the tissues where active cell division and growth occurs, and they are divided into three meristem, that is the apical meristem, intercalary meristem and lateral meristem, on the basis of the position. So apical means it will be present on the apices, that is the upper portion. So this is the apical meristem. Intercalary meristem, the positioning is here near the nodal region, and the lateral meristem will be present on the sides. So apical meristem will allow the plant to grow in height. Lateral meristem will allow the plant to grow on the width part, okay, that is the girth part, and the intercalary meristem will help in the formation of various branches. Okay, so based on the position, meristems are of three types: apical meristem, intercalary and the lateral meristem. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the apical meristem. Now apical meristem are present at the tips of the root and shoot. Okay, so it will help the plant to grow in length, either it is root or the shoot system, and it is of two types, that is root apical meristem, which will be present at the root tips, and the shoot apical meristem, which will be present at the shoot tips. Okay, so apical meristem, you can see here, this is the root apical meristem. Okay, and you can see here, this is the leaf primordia, so it is the shoot part, and here the meristematic zone is present, which will allow it to grow in at the upper direction. Okay, and this will allow it to grow at the lower direction, that means beneath the soil, and this will be above the soil. Okay, so apical meristem occur at the tips of the root and shoots and produce primary tissue, and it is of two types, that is the root apical meristem and shoot apical meristem. Okay, now root apical meristem. Root apical meristem occupies the tip of the root. If you see in the diagram, this is the root apical meristem, this is the root cap, and this is the foremost region of the root, okay, which is protected, and here apical tissues, meristematic tissues will be present, which will help in the growth. Okay, so this is the protoderm. Okay, these are the structures we will see in this chapter only later. Okay, and this is the diagram of the root apical meristem, where the tissues are actively going under cell division. This is the shoot apical meristem. So this is the leaf primordium. Okay, leaf primordia, or the leaf structures are forming here. This is the axillary bud, and when you see, when the terminal bud is cut, and when you see it, stain it, you will see this kind of structure, which is very similar to this structure. Okay, so shoot apical meristem occupies the distant most region of the stem axis. Okay, when we talk about the stem tip or the stem axis, it will occupy the distant most region. Some cells left behind will form the shoot apical meristem, will constitute the axillary bud, and they are present in the axil of the leaves and can form a branch or a flower. Okay. Now comes the intercalary meristem. So intercalary meristem occur between the mature tissue. Okay, and they occur in grasses and regenerate part removed by grazing. Okay. Specifically, when you see that when the apical meristem is growing and it is increasing the plant in height, so this meristomatic tissue will be converted into permanent tissue, and this intercalary meristem is present between the two permanent tissue. So you see here, this is the permanent tissue formed and this is the permanent tissue formed. This is the internode part. Okay, and between this node a new branch will arise. So this arising of new branch can be possible only when there is a tissue which is forming cells, and these cells can form a various tissue or organs. Okay, so this intercalary meristem will be present between the mature tissue, and in grass you can see that when the grazing animal or any animal is grazing on the grass, after some time you will see the formation of the petals. Okay, so formation of the grass blades, and that is because of this intercalary meristem. Okay, see, you can here see this is the presence of the intercalary meristem, which is giving rise to a leaf-like structures. Okay, so apical and intercalary meristem are primary meristem. Okay, because they appear early in the plant. So any meristem which is appearing early in the life of the plant can be called as primary meristem and contribute to the formation of primary plant body. That can be leaf, stem. Okay, during that roots, during that specific region of the apical meristem produce dermal tissue, ground tissue and vascular tissue. Okay, now everything in the plant should be coordinated and have to coordinate it for the smooth ongoing of the plant to survive in the environment. So this apical and intercalary meristem will form primary meristem. Okay, these are the primary meristem, and they will help in the formation of the primary plant body, and all the tissues which are required for the living or the functioning of the plant in the environment will be formed, like the dermal tissues, the ground tissue and the vascular tissue. Vascular tissue, you know that xylem is used for the transportation of water and phloem is used for the transportation of food. Okay, now comes the secondary meristem, that is the lateral meristem. So as we saw that primary meristem are formed in early life of the plant, okay, which are forming the primary plant body. Now the secondary meristem will be present in the mature regions of the root and shoot, and they will help in the secondary growth of the plant. Okay, so these meristems occur in the mature regions of roots and shoot. They are cylindrical meristem. They are seen in gymnosperm and dicots. Examples are fascicular, vascular cambium, interfascicular cambium and core cambium. This we will learn afterwards. And these are responsible for producing the secondary tissue. Okay. So now we come to the tissues, that is the permanent or mature tissue. So the cells produced by primary and secondary meristem become structurally and functionally specialized and lose the ability to divide. And now they become what? They become permanent tissue. These are called permanent or mature cells and constitute the permanent tissue. And these permanent tissue are of two types, that is simple and complex. Okay. So what are permanent tissue? When the cells produced by primary and secondary meristem become structurally and functionally specialized for doing a particular function, for performing a particular function in the plant, and they don't have the ability now to divide and form certain tissues. Okay, so they are called what? They are called permanent or mature cells, and they will constitute the permanent tissue. And these permanent tissue are of two types, that is simple and complex. Now we'll learn about the simple permanent tissue. Okay, two types of permanent tissue were there, simple and complex. So now we are learning about the simple permanent tissue. Now these tissues having all cells similar in structure and function, and these are of three types, that is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Parenchyma you can see here in the diagram, collenchyma is this type and sclerenchyma is this type. Okay, See here you can see the deposition. This we'll see later what are the characteristics of Sclerenchyma. Okay, so simple permanent tissue are of three types: Parenchyma, Collenchyma and Sclerenchyma. Now we'll talk about Parenchyma. That is the first simple permanent tissue. Now it forms the major component within the organs. Cells are generally isodiametric, means they are similar in size. They may be spherical, oval, round, polygonal or elongated. You can see all the shapes in this. Okay, their walls are thin. They are having thin walls which are made up of cellulose, and cells are closely packed or have small intercellular spaces. Okay, these you can see very small intercellular spaces are present. Intercellular space is the space which is present between those two cells. Okay, so they are very closely packed and they are having very small intercellular spaces. What is the function? The function of these is photosynthesis. Okay, you can see here photosynthesis, storage and secretion. Okay, now comes the second permanent tissue. Okay, simple permanent tissue, that is Collenchyma. Now this Collenchyma occurs in layers below the epidermis in the dicot plants. Okay, below the epidermis. It is found as a homogeneous layer or in patches. Now it consists of cells with much thickened corners due to deposition of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. There the thin cell wall was very thin and was made up of cellulose. Here the corners are thickened. You can see here the corners are thickened with the deposition of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin, and intercellular spaces are absent. You will not be able to see any intercellular spaces between these. Okay, yeah. So these are the Collenchyma where you can see the deposition. Cells of the Collenchyma can be oval, spherical or polygonal and contain chloroplast. They provide mechanical support to the growing parts such as young stem and petiole of the leaf. So you can see here whenever the air is coming with high speed but the petiole is moving and the leaf is not detached from the plant, it is because this Collenchyma is present in the petiole of the leaf, which will provide flexibility to the leaf. Okay, and these cells contain chloroplast and assimilate food. So Parenchyma was also doing the function of photosynthesis, so it was also containing chloroplast, and these cells are to some extent doing the function of photosynthesis. Okay, now comes the third permanent tissue, simple permanent tissue, that is Sclerenchyma. Now it consists of long narrow cells with thick and lignified cell walls having a few or numerous pits. Okay, they are usually dead without protoplast. These are the dead cells without protoplast, and based on the form, structure, origin and development, Sclerenchyma is of two types. Okay, so you can see here the Sclerenchyma is of two types, that is fibers and sclerids. Okay, so you can see here the green part is nothing but the deposition, because these cells are long and narrow and they are thick and lignified cell walls. Okay, they are having a few or numerous pits. You can see here the pit formation in this, and they are dead without protoplast and they form the structure, origin and development, which are the fibers and the sclerides. Okay, now they will form the mechanical part in the tissue, okay, in the plant, which will provide support to the cell. Now fibers, when we talk about, these are thick walled, elongated and pointed cells. You can see here in the diagram, generally occurring in groups. Okay, sclerides, this is the scleride. Sclerides are spherical, oval or cylindrical, highly thickened dead cell walls. You can see the pink color, this is the thickening here, with very narrow cavities. These are the lumen, the very narrow cavities. Okay, they are found in fruit walls of nuts, pulp of fruits like guava, pear and sapota, and seed coats of legumes and leaves of tea. Okay, so these sclerides can be found in pulp or the fruit walls of nuts. Why they are so strong? Because of the deposition of certain chemicals like lignin, which makes them very hard. Okay, and function is it provides mechanical support to the organs. Okay, so the simple permanent tissue were of three types. First was the Parenchyma, then the Collenchyma and the Sclerenchyma.